Good afternoon and welcome to Biztech Asian Midday Marketwatch. Our guest today is Jeffrey Halley, Senior Market Analyst, Asia Pacific at Owanda. Jeff, I know your internet crashed, but good to have you on board.
Yeah, I've had to quickly switch over to my iMac actually, hence the slightly different background and looking a bit weird in the lighting. So I do apologise for that.
Now, before we get your insights, let's take a quick look and see how markets have been performing. We'll start off with crypto markets. Bitcoin is at 56,504. It's down 0.75%. Ethereum is at 4,259.88. It is up 2.19%. Now, looking across regional stock markets, we've got the SGX, which is at 3,232.23. It's up 0.15%. If we look at other regional markets, we've got the KLSC, which is at 1,523.45. It is up 0.04%. Shanghai is at 3,584.8. It's down 0.12%. The ASX is at 7,732.1. It is down 0.12%. The Nikkei is at 29,246.5. It's down almost 2%, down 1.76%. The Hang Seng is at 24,601.37. It's down 0.2%. Rounding up the numbers, we've got the Kospi, which is at 2,987.73, down 0.34%. Jeff, what's your thoughts on how markets have performed this morning?
When we look at Japan, I think it's playing catch up. They were on holiday yesterday, so they're playing catch up to the previous couple of sessions moves. But when we look at New York overnight, we saw the Nasdaq once again fell as US yields rose, while the S&P and the Dow Jones held steady. And I think Asian markets today are very much reflecting that. The more tech-heavy South Korea, Taiwan, Japan markets are lower, while the more traditional sector heavy markets such as ASEAN and China are holding their own. And I think with the lack of any real driver or news overnight, markets here are content to follow that lead.
Now, US 10-year yields are rising. The US dollar is strong. That's going to be a little bit disruptive for Asian markets because a lot of the currencies, except for the yuan, will depreciate. What's your view on how that's going to impact ASEAN?
Yeah, I think that with the yuan holding steady around 639 versus the dollar, that is providing some support to the ASEAN or to the Asia currency space as a whole. But we are seeing over the last few days a slow but steady fall in most ASEAN currencies. And I think if we see US yields remaining at these levels or continuing higher, and that's my base case, we are going to see pressure on Asia FX because central banks across the region are in no position or have no willingness to hike their interest rates or to tighten monetary policy to offset currency weakness. That could lead to higher inflation, I believe, in 2022 in ASEAN. But I believe that, like India, central banks in Asia are going to be prepared to tolerate that. The only exception to that has been the Korean won. The Bank of Korea has a policy announcement tomorrow, and we're expecting 0.25% to be added to the policy rate there. If it's anything like the price action with the RBNZ after they hiked by the same this morning, though, I would expect it's going to be a buy the rumor and sell the fact, and that Korean won weakness will resume if the Bank of Korea acts as expected.
Now, I want to zoom in on Singapore because this morning the numbers came out and Singapore's economy grew 7.1% in the third quarter compared to a year ago. Now, that's far better than the official estimate of 6.5% growth. Now, the Ministry has revised its 2021 economic growth estimates for Singapore to around 7%, which is at the top of its previous forecast rate of 6 to 7%. What's your read on that? And is that a canary in the coal mine for the rest of ASEAN, perhaps?
Well, I believe that what we're seeing is the first signs of a domestic consumption recovery, which has obviously been lagging the manufacturing and export side, which has been firing on all cylinders, quite obviously because of all the restrictions that there have been in Singapore. With an easing of those restrictions with the vaccinated travel lanes, I'm expecting to see a very rapid increase in activity from the domestic side of the economy. That will cause more inflationary pressures. But I think we're going to see a rebound in services, construction, real estate into the first half of 2022. So I'm aligned with that. What it does mean, though, is that at the next MAS policy meeting, which I believe will be around April next year, that a further tightening of the REER, which is quite a mouthful, will occur.
Now, I want to zoom in then now on oil prices, because they've dropped as there is a coordinated reserve release effort spearheaded by Joe Biden to ease some supply issues. What's your view on its impact in the short to medium term?
Well, President Biden had signaled that he was intending to do so, and markets have duly said thank you very much and then sold out of all of their long positions in the oil market. They've clearly reinstated those after the rally overnight. But President Biden is very limited about how much oil he can release. He can only release huge amounts of oil from the SPR if there are supply chain or supply blockages in the oil system. We're not seeing that around the world at the moment. What we're seeing is plenty of oil, but at a higher price. So he's really used the limit of his discretionary amount to release with his announcement overnight. Now, in coordination with those other countries, the amount released is actually going to be spread over a few months, and it's really not enough to make a material impact on the price of oil. And I think the market's price action overnight, where we saw Brent and WTI rise by over 3%, reflects that. Now that that announcement's out of the way, those long positions are coming back into the market. I think the only thing that would really change that dynamic is if Europe had moved into a series of very strong and sharp lockdowns. Now, I'm not really seeing that occurring, but I think that may serve to cap gains. But otherwise, I believe oil's price environment remains as constructive as ever.
Now, Jeff, as always, thank you very much for coming on our show, and thank you very much for your insights.
My pleasure, Brian. Thank you.
Now, we've been speaking to Jeffrey Halley, Senior Market Analyst, Asia Pacific at Rwanda, on Biztech's Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Brian Fernandez. This video and podcast will be on our various social media platforms, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thanks a lot for tuning in.